This happened on the northwest side of San Antonio, kind of by Fiesta, Texas. It's a project of luxury apartments called the Mansions at La Cantera. Basically, we got an email from a concerned neighbor who was upset by this clear cut of trees on a picturesque hillside. She was worried about whether the developer was doing everything he was supposed to do to develop this project, following the city permitting process, things like that, and basically asked us to take a look at what was going on out there. There's a particular form that the developer filled out in which he told the city that there would be no endangered species habitat harmed. So, long story short, he filled out this sworn affidavit saying that those two species would not be harmed by his project, but he was relying on a 5-year-old study that only looked at warblers. It did not look at karst invertebrates. And when we found that out, that was pretty eye-opening. And we asked the city, do you think the developer was upfront with you? And the city said, we see a problem here, and they halted the project. From their perspective, they say that his engineer says they've done what they think they need to do. One of the complications here is that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service enforces the Endangered Species Act, but ultimately it's up to a developer or a landowner to decide whether or not to go through the permitting process. This current investigation might not go anywhere, but in the near term, it does complicate things for the developer, because the city says they're not going to let the project move forward until they get a letter from Fish and Wildlife saying the developer did what he needed to do. This is not an administrative penalty where, an agency like the EPA might fine a company for polluting. These kinds of cases involving endangered species are criminal cases, and they're handled ultimately by the U.S. Attorney's Office. So there's a higher legal threshold. So again, whether this goes anywhere is a big question. The Army owns Camp Bullis, which is in the vicinity of this, and the Army is concerned that there's been so much development around that camp that warblers are nesting on the training ground there and complicating their mission, because the songbirds are losing habitat. So this lawyer, James Canizo, is concerned that developers are indeed destroying habitat for warblers and not going through the permitting process, and they're not getting penalized. So, he's pretty frustrated by what he sees as a lack of enforcement.